Hey guys, Stealth here. Time for some wargame. And today I have a 3v3 for you, which according to the replay description is going to turn into a 3v2 soon. With two people left on red 4, and red 4 is exactly what we're going to be following. We're going to be looking over Russo's shoulder, which is Commander Russo over here. He's using a Soviet general deck, and he says that this is a 2v3 that started out as a 3v3, but it soon becomes a 2v3 as someone left or disconnected. He says we managed to turn it around in the end to a slugfest. Slugfests are usually very tank heavy. It's going to be interesting to watch that, and it's going to be interesting to see how exactly they're going to compensate for the loss of one player. As you can see, Commander Russo is top in red 4, which means that if someone from red 4 leaves, he's going to get the most units, or he's going to get all the units from that player. If you're not familiar with that mechanic, you have a team list, and the top person in the team is going to get all the units from anyone underneath him if he leaves. If Commander Rousseau leaves, and for example Forever has left, then he's going to get all the units. If Solara leaves, then Blaze is going to get all the units. Makes it, on the one hand, more interesting, because you can have a larger impact on the front, and you can coordinate better. At the same time, it means more micromanagement, or actually more management and less micro time for you. And this can really come back and present itself as a problem. Anyway, let's have a look at what Commander Rousseau is starting out with. He has an OSA AK, a Buratino for starters. That is interesting. A couple more AA units. We have another OSA AK, we have a Strela, a T-72 BU, T-64 BM, BRDM-3, one MI2 Recon Helo, and yet another 64 BM with a Strela. On a map like this, you always want to make sure you cover your flanks, and that's exactly what he's doing here. He's going to send out one reconnaissance helicopter to the right, because a map like this, there's basically 1/3 of the map that you're using. You're basically only using the middle of the map. That doesn't mean that you should overlook the sides, and this is something that goes wrong with so many people. The right flank and the left flank are incredibly dangerous areas in the sense that you can perfectly push through. Now, I'm not telling you to start reinforcing and putting infantry into this town. You could if you really wanted to, but it wouldn't have any strategic value. But you can use a helicopter push and come around the flank. You can do the same thing with reconnaissance units. You can do the same thing with airstrikes. You can try and fly a spotter unit in through this riverbank or there. Walk them up and then do an artillery strike on the spotted positions. Anyway, let's get started. Looks like we got a whole load of units from Forever Mirin, which I'm going to call Forever from now on. And we have Bashi-Chuni, I think? Yeah, Bashi-Chuni, heading towards the middle of the map. His unit placement's a bit weird, because the units, if you want to go towards the middle of the map, you gotta make sure that they're over there, not over there. Anyway, let's have a look what's happening at Rousseau's party over here. He's pushing in recon units, he's pushing in his AA units. He is going to go towards the middle, which makes sense for his T-72 BU. And, of course, the wheeled vehicles, the BRDM-3 and the OSA are going to get there first. I'm not sure if this is an actual design decision from his deck, but the OSA is a wheeled AA unit. Whoa, and it's listing heavy to starboard, which means that it's wheeled. Wheeled means arriving faster on the scene, and arriving faster means that you're going to be able to nuke or shoot down helicopters that might present itself as a threat. Now Forever seems to have run into some resistance here, and he already lost 150 points in helos without getting anything in return. And not just that, it looks like Bashi also has trouble. He has been taking a lot of damage from a Smirch, or no, actually it's not a Smirch, it's probably a Mars strike. And he is really hurting with some of his units. Look at that napalm tank. 1 hit point. Tunguska is okay. The tanks have taken a lot of damage. I'm not exactly sure why you'd want to run in here with tanks, considering the very high risk to being shot at with infantry, without really having any kind of counter here. The counter is arriving. We have a couple of Granatomets. We have OT-64Cs pulling back, and a couple of Vidra 2s reinforcing that position. Now over towards the middle, where light riflemen have landed, and they have in fact gotten their first kill. They managed to get an OSA AK kill, which neutralizes the right flank AA defense, and apparently they may have also heavily hit this BRDM-3, or it was something else. Whatever happened, this thing is down to 1 hit point, and this MI2 has decided to park itself pretty much inside a building, which means it is not going to be capable of spotting a whole lot of things. Over to the right is happening exactly what I am usually warning people for, and he's spotting it. We have 2 helicopters coming in, CH-135s with miniguns. The Mi-2 itself is unarmed, so the Mi-2 has to run, because even though these things aren't packing heavy weapons, they can very easily take down this helo. Strela is having none of that, taking one down. And down in the middle of the map, it seems that we might be dealing with an airborne group. Considering the light troop transports, considering the light riflemen, and the M8 that has, or at least one of them has been killed. He fires his Buratino towards Cheriton. Now the real question is, what does that give you? And this is something that I see go wrong with a lot of people. They fire off a weapon like the Buratino. It's a really, really nice weapon. It can really neutralize a position, but if you don't have anything that can reinforce that position, then the joke is on you, really. You may force some losses, you may damage some units, but what you really want to do is push in afterwards, when the units are still trying to recover, when they're still heavily damaged, and I don't see such a push or such a counterattack getting ready to go. Over on the left, Blue Force seems to be reigning supreme. They have 915 points versus 350 for Red. And it seems that Forever is struggling heavily. Same goes for Bachachuni. Commander Rousseau decides to help out. T-64BM moves forwards and is immediately repulsed by ATGMs, which are firing from this helicopter. OSA coming forward, trying to help out. 64 goes down. Mi-8 went down. OSA is still trying to close the gap, but without good control over this tree line, it's a pretty risky move. Come on, OSA, get in range. Here comes the range. HGM returns. HGM gets lost as its tracker goes down, and the OSA is safe. The BU now is taking fire, and it has been spotted. Not entirely sure what is exactly spotting it. Oh, looks like we got a seed aircraft flying over. Blaze just took out that AA unit. 64BM pushing up. But again, you need recon. Guys, bring reconnaissance. I keep repeating this. I've done about 800 Wargame videos by now. Bring reconnaissance. No reconnaissance means no spotting. And no spotting means no kills. And no kills means the enemy wins the game. So please, bring more reconnaissance. As for the T-72, it took some damage, but it's only really very light. Bit of paintwork, probably. There we go. He left the game, which means he probably disconnected. Means that Commander Rousseau suddenly got a few units operating right at the front line at the infantry section here, at the tree lines. And he has to manage these as well. Over to the right, we're looking at a Strela dueling with an Apache. Apache has taken a hit, but the Strela has less range than the Apache, and really starts to regret that. As for other AA units, a Tunguska would be really nice here, because their entire right flank is open. If you would take that Apache and fly in here, the only thing standing in the way, at the moment, would be this one. The ZSD 531 Alpha. It's just a bit of AA infantry, and that's it. So Red 4 is really in trouble, and probably Blue 4 does not realize how much of a gap they have, otherwise they would have flown right through and ended the game. They are bringing in Strela right now, but Strela does not have the same range as the Apache, and the Apache could kill this before the Strela hits. Then push into UAZ, or as I've recently been told, UAZ, kill the Buratino, and you're basically done. Looks like Mirin is going to do a very heavy napalm run here with 3 MiG-912s. This is going to cause one hell of a forest fire. Bloody hell, the whole tree line's ablaze. Look at that. Now napalm, I'm still not entirely sure how this works, but sometimes you just get a sort of random napalm kills, even though it wasn't your napalm to begin with. I mean, 13 points. It's like the game split the kill between the two team members that are left, between Commander Rousseau and Forever. And this is a bit weird, because nothing is worth 13 points. The only thing you could imagine is that the game splits it. T-64BM is engaging, gets engaged by the Apache. He has to pull back into cover and hope that they don't have a spotter, but that's a bit too much to hope for as the T-64 takes a big hit. The Apache by now has lost line of sight. He pushes the Strela forward, Strela gets killed off. And that pretty much concludes the AA down the middle, as the only thing they've got left is a buck, which really isn't that good against helicopters. We've got a couple of Gornos engaging Blaze's Humvees, and by the Veterancy... Let's see, what are these guys carrying? I'd say that these are not light riflemen. Again, Recon is failing us. There we go, Canadian Airborne. So we might be dealing in fact with a NORAD airborne deck instead of a standard US airborne deck. Of course, I could have known that, considering that these are Canadian helicopters. As for the right flank, it looks to be relatively well defended. We got one Strela, we got a Modstrelki, we got an MI2, looking good. Raven comes over again, neutralizes the book. Make sure that if you have these units combined, if you have AA units that are susceptible to radar, take them offline. Hit them with a hotkey. Make sure that you assign a hotkey and then press the hotkey and press H for turning off the weapons. And by doing it in such a fashion, you risk, or you far diminish the risk of losing the unit. Of course, it can still get spotted and it can still get killed off, but it's not as likely. Looks like we got Canadian Airborne here operating against Gornos. The Gornos, by the looks of it, are not going to be winning this fight, meaning that they lost an important position, but here is Forever coming in to save the day and torch the surviving Gornos. Here comes another bombing run onto light riflemen. That was very good. Those light riflemen were threatening his position. Bertino fires again. I'm not exactly sure still what he's firing at. Probably just trying to, I don't know, put pressure on that tree line. Really not sure. AA, still a big problem down the middle. If Blaze would bring in an Apache longbow with its exceptional spotting ability, we would have a huge problem down the middle. Because there would be nothing that could stand against it, and the Apache would spot for itself, killing off the T-72BU and pretty much whatever other unit is out there. It looks like Commander Rousseau here has brought in a couple of reinforcements, a couple of light support units in the form of the 122-54. 15-point kill there. I don't think he had a shot, but he basically used ground fire, which worked perfectly in the situation. He continues to ground fire, but I think by this time that these guys are dead. BRDM-3 gets spotted and continues to get spotted by something. Might be something in this position, or for all we know, they might have some reconnaissance troops down there already. T-64BM pushes out, tries to get a shot in, and of course Rousseau also has to continue paying attention to this flank. Panzer Grenadiers looks like they're toast. T-64 MV did not get hit, but it's so close to the fire that it is starting to get worried. You can see it going between worried and calm every now and then. Over towards the right, the 122-54s have been killed off, both of them. Probably by Canadian Airborne, which are now taking fire at the US, and this thing has to run if it wants to survive. So you don't particularly need a Carl Gustav to take one of those CVs out. Topaz and a BRDM-3 are engaging the Canadian Airborne as more infantry reinforcements are being brought in. But this does cost them Elena for the time being, meaning less income. Bertino fires again. This is starting to get pretty expensive. And we're not even sure if these guys are dead, although I'm assuming that they are. It looks like these have gotten a slightly unlucky start in life, as I think this thing got hit by something, which is not likely to be the Bertino. But they are already panicked, MTLBVs are heavily panicked and heavily damaged. In the meanwhile, we're trying to push out with Commander Russo's forces. We got the BRDM-3, again being spotted, without spotting what is spotting itself. And here comes the Apache again. Oh, you got lucky there for not getting detected. Apache fires, gets the kill, no more recon in the middle whatsoever. Commander Russo, make sure you bring more reconnaissance. It is vital to an effort like this. Bertino seems to have taken some counter fire. I think that these guys were now really getting pissed off at the amount of napalm fire that these guys were taking. So they decided to take out the Bertino, and this is something that you could also improve on in your gameplay. Select the unit, tell it to fire, hold shift and tell it to go somewhere else. Because by the time that the enemy knows where it is, and by the time that the enemy is actually returning fire, your vehicle will already be somewhere else. It's a really easy and safe way to keep stuff alive. We got one random Humvee coming in for 10-point kill. I think that they were just trying to spot whatever was in here, just trying to probe how bad the response would be. And right now it isn't really that bad, so they think about pushing up. T-72BU says no to that and instantly kills both the transport and the infantry inside, alongside with his partner 64BM. The Apache tries it again. Again, does not get a kill. Does not even get a hit. You're gonna need some longer range AA in this. These Apaches are killing you. And while oh dear, the Canadian Airborne apparently survived the Bertino strike and are not quite dead yet. They now have a huge problem as they're facing 13 Motostrelki and the T-64BM that's going to suppress them. We've got a Strela, and again, Strela gets taken out at long range because it did not have the capability to hit the Apache. Although I think with its final seconds of life, it actually did manage to hit the Apache here, as this thing has now lost 5 hit points. It's still a big threat, even in a condition such as this where it's shaken. And he is making excellent use of these Apaches. Although, to be fair, you could do the same job almost as well with some of the Cobras. I'm saying almost as well because most of the Cobras have a range of 2625 versus the 2800 meter range on the Apache. This is something that against AA units such as Strelas will be significant, because at the 2625 meter distance they will start return fire, whereas now the Apache can safely fire. Over towards the middle of the map, sorry, the left side of the map, we seem to be gaining terrain. Between Boris and center, this tree line is still ablaze, although this seems to be a recent napalm strike. And actually, let's reconsider. There's not a lot of trees left, so let's call this the dead zone for now. This dead zone does provide you with cover, it does provide you with concealment, but to call it a forest, well, that would be overstating it. We've got a couple of BTR-80s with infantry inside. They're trying to make their way up, but it looks like they might have some HGM units. I'm not sure actually where, but something was able to hit this unit. Oh, never mind, it was an Mi-28. It was an AA missile, probably coming from one of these structures there. Motostrelki taking heavy fire. T-64BM doing ground attack again, trying to neutralize the Canadian Airborne. But trust me, if they were still in here, you would be able to see them with the motos. Good initiative to use the ground attack. It's something that I don't see enough people do. But in this situation, you don't really need it. It is okay for now. Over towards the right, we got Forever deploying a Snezka and a Strop. Not sure why you'd want to deploy an additional recon unit, because we've got the Mi-2 over here. And, oh, what? Those Canadian Airborne units actually survived. Still the same unit. These guys have been through hell and back, and they are still alive and kicking. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is about to be the last situation that... There we go. About the last time that we're going to be seeing those Canadian airborne. Another, what I think is Mars strike comes in, considering that these are German forces, and they nail one of the Strelas, which was defending the right flank. M8 AGS comes in, tries to go in for an attack, probably on these Su-122 54s. It's going to kill them faster than they can ever return fire, let alone get in range to fire. M8 closes in, gets the first kill, reloads, aims, get the second kill. This is exactly what these things are so damn good at. Just quickly picking off targets, very good rate of fire, very good armor penetration, and great accuracy. They just aren't too good against an Su-25K, which of course makes perfect sense. It's a bit of an expensive unit to use this in a situation like this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he still had this thing standing by at the airport, ready to do ground attack strikes, because the K version has those S-24 Bravo missiles, which still do a ton of damage. Looks like we've got an intercept mission coming in from Blaze. A Tomcat comes in and nails the Su-25K just as it was trying to leave the scene. Very unlucky there. In a map like this, I personally wouldn't use Tomcats, because they are just not very good at dogfighting. But you can get away with it, apparently, provided that the aircraft is in the right situation. Over towards the left, they are pushing up. Russo says, I think it's safe, but he's not too sure. Forever has encountered that it is not quite safe yet, as the Motostrelchis here are taking a lot of fire. He's pushing, oh dear. Miran, if you're watching this, if you can, make sure you have your infantry not in helicopters, or at least not all of them. If you do have them in helicopters, offload them here and just walk them up. Because you just started losing a lot of pretty decent infantry due to one Crotal AA missile. And it's a bit of a waste to see your troops go down like that. Another blip on the right flank. Nothing there yet, but still, if Blue 4 would want to take these structures, they could. Because Red 4 does not really have anything to defend them. And by the time that they spot anything going towards these buildings, they have already taken them. So they're going to be a bit behind. And again, work your recon. There we go. They captured a Ural. They just captured a Ural and recaptured it by Red 4. But I think that we're going to see another unit of infantry inside there. And it's probably going to be reconnaissance infantry, as they have now spotted T-72A, the BTR-70 and the Strela 10M. Meaning that we might very well be seeing reconnaissance infantry in there. We just lost a T-64 BM down there in the field. As for the other units, it looks like most of the infantry is no longer with us. We're just seeing a bit of Strela activity here and one unit of Lecca Picota, which really isn't too much for an assault like this. A couple of BVP-2s coming in, and considering that they can roam around here unchallenged, I'd say that this town is clear, although Blue 4 is pretty hastily trying to push in more infantry. VDV-90 are squaring off... No, you gotta be kidding me. You have got... This is still the same Canadian Airborne unit. This is the Canadian Airborne unit that I told you was dead about 3 times. But nope, it is still there, and it just killed another BRDM-3. Are they finally gone? Yes, they're finally gone. That took forever. It looks like Blue 4 is losing terrain, but they are making Red 4 pay for that terrain. As you can see, Red 4 used to be about 100 points away, and they're now 400 points away. Another helicopter. Yep, it's probably the same Apache. Bit of a waste to fire Hellfires into a BTR-70. I would personally save those for something the size of this. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the next target for the Apache. There we go, missile going in. Hits the T-72BU. But he is being threatened by the Igla-N. Pulls away. Igla goes out of range. Marder tries to join the fight with the Milan missiles mounted on it. And the BU is very cleverly pulled back here into the tree line. He's a bit close to the command vehicle there, but okay. As long as this tank is in cover, you should be fine. Although a tank like this could invite yet another Mars strike, and that would hit the CV, so you gotta be careful, or you gotta be at least considering an attack or a movement like this. Looks like they recaptured their Ural. We got one unit of VDV left, and the Igla unfortunately died. Igla N got lost due to, I think, a standard tank shell. Or was this a bombing run? Looking by the crater, I'd say that might be a bombing run. Which means that once again, the road is pretty much open to this position. And, oh, what's going on here? Yep, I think I already can see what's going on here. The right flank, heavily defended. Left flank, open. Not so much. Now, before I press play, yeah, right. Before I press play, what kind of unit do you think is hiding out here? You just know that a USE or a US got killed. What exactly would be operating behind the lines here? I don't think it's a helicopter personally, because we got a strop here. I don't think it is going to be a vehicle. Although it's not impossible, but it's unlikely, as vehicles usually get spotted a lot sooner. What I think is operating behind the lines here is possibly Delta Force, or maybe Canadian Special Forces. What? Hang on. How did they see that CV? Because this is not just a random bombing. He says there's recon infantry in here, but I have it on neutral and there is no recon infantry here. What the fuck is going on? I find it rather unlikely that Blue 4 would get so exceptionally lucky that they would do a bombing run exactly where the CV is. Situation like this, not too likely. But you can see the Red 4 is now completely distracted. They're bringing back the BU, they're bringing in recon units, they're bringing in more infantry, trying to find that CV, or trying to find the command unit, or something that killed the command unit. There seems to be nothing there. This does usually cause players to play a little bit worse for at least a little while, as suddenly they are not completely aware of the situation at the front line anymore. I'd say that in this situation is not the case, as they're still operating on the front line, doing pretty well, still taking terrain, and in fact they are getting points faster than Blue 4 is. They are a little bit behind as far as points goes, as command points were taken from Gregory, but aside from that, I think they're doing quite right. Interesting to note that this Topaz can take aim and fire at the helos without taking any kind of response fire. There's no ATGMs, there's no tank rounds, there's nothing coming at them at the moment. Which leads me to believe... yeah, they don't have a lot. They have cavalry scouts, which have dragons, which are inactive, to not give their position away. We have that Apache, which is still a big threat, and they still don't really have an answer to that other than the Strela. Over on the right, light riflemen, Canadian Airborne. That's it. We got another Humvee coming in, or two Humvees coming in with probably more light riflemen, or at least that would be my bet. But other than that, you could pretty easily push this position with a couple of tanks, and let's say one or two Tungushkas. And of course your recon. Because recon is still a very big problem. They know that there is something spotting the BU, and if you would keep a BU spotted like this for as long as it is very likely to go down. It is very likely to take fire from a Nighthawk, maybe again the cluster artillery, maybe someone flies in with a Hornet and nails you. It is really imperative to get your recon up to par, because they are spotting stuff that you aren't. MiG-25BM circles over the front lines, does not find anything, surprisingly. And as for this town fight, it seems that Blue 4 is defending it with tooth and nail. They got nothing left in this town. Red 4 has been pushed completely back into whatever was left of that forest. Oh god, Mirren, do not sacrifice all these points, please. That is going to be a big investment. And they're very close formation as well, which means that they are at risk of taking 1 or 2 Crotal missiles and going down to those together. So far, no AA units yet. Another large-scale bombing run comes in. Does not seem to do too much, but of course we don't know exactly what's going on there. As for the right, does not really see any kind of activity at the moment. I think they were very heavily focused on the left. And oh, there's the Nighthawk. Raven comes in. At this point though, Red 4 has learned not to field any kind of radar-guided AA. And the Raven does... yeah, he does make it out alive. 2, whoa, simultaneous kill there. Always nice to look at. The AMX HOTS, interesting to see these in action, as I personally never use them. They're not bad units. I just find that they don't always make those 40 points that I'm investing in them. Finally, Blue 4 is fielding a tank, M8 AGS. Again, they can barely spot it, but once they have it spotted, the BU will surely take it out with one shot. All of these tree lines are a slight problem though. Do not... yeah, there we go. Oh, the BU just took a side missile there. Not exactly sure what that was. There it is, probably light rifleman. BU is unaware of the damage, or unaware of the threat, and does not angle this tank. And there's the BU down. I think the Apache over there is the one that finally put the nail in the final nail in the coffin here, taking out the T-72 BU. But the Apache did pay for that. It went down. Look at how far this MiG-25BM is darting forward, by the way. That is some aggressive maneuvering right there. Wouldn't be surprised if he's coordinating that with Mirren, the first one to try and take damage, or the first one to try and pop all of the AA. And then all of the bombers come in, let's say about 10 to 20 seconds behind it, and try to do as much damage as possible. We got another bombing run coming in there for 40, 80 points. That was probably mortars. And by now, they are still 100 points apart. Red 4 has lost, or has sacrificed a little bit of the point advantage to Blue. Over towards the left, we still have a couple of Leopards coming in at very short range. Not sure what you want to have your Leopards at a range like this. Especially because I consider these fire support units for 30 points. They have 6 armor, but they're really easy to hit. They're pretty damn easy to kill too. Especially if you have infantry that has anywhere near halfway decent AT weaponry. Even the lower end RPGs could pretty reliably take out targets on this angle. We got another Tomcat coming in, which killed the MiG-27 probably. And Blue 4 is once again leading. We got 6 minutes left, and we have still been promised a slugfest. So I'm interested to see when exactly that slugfest is going to start. Because for now I haven't really seen anything too sluggy yet. Red 4 does have a significant problem here on the front line though, as these units are being spotted, but they don't have any kind of retaliatory spotter. They don't know what's going on. And even if they would know what's going on, they wouldn't be able to fire at it, because they don't have a tank other than the T-64BM there. In a situation like this, I would push the T-64BM forward to that position, ASAP. You want to have a gun there. Nice kill there. 1 Cobra missile finished off the Humvee and the contents, and the gun does the rest of the work. So another push by Blue 4 denied. Bertino is about to fire again at this town. And again, there's not too much in that town. Looks like Blue 4 is really far back. You can see the Mars having to go all the way to the other side of the map to try and get at least their minimum range, which they are now getting. And Red 4 is starting to feel the rain of death that's coming down. The BU is taking fire, the T-72A is taking some damage, there's another bit of damage. A couple of units coming in, they look like fire support units to me. I think these are tow trucks. And not your average tow truck that's helping you out when you have car trouble, but the vehicle with the Milan tow missile. Or sorry, with the Milan HGM, it's not a tow variant. Helo offensive going in from Forever Mirren. At this stage, this is a big risk, as you don't know what their AA position is like. And this does mean that in a situation where you are so close on points, it's either going to go very, very well, and you get a lot of kills, or it's all going to go horribly wrong, and you're suddenly losing 400 points. Right now, it looks like neither really is happening. They're not getting a lot of kills, they're not really taking that much fire, although they seem to be taking some fire from the Mistral infantry that's down there. A DAP comes in, probably trying to deter the enemy. And here comes the tank offensive. T-72A as frontliners, T-64BM behind them, and a T-72BU for dealing with heavy threats. Two T-72M2 Modernas are coming in. And the Igla, by the way, is trying to nuke the DAP, which is cleverly retreating to a better firing range. We got again the Tomcat coming in. The MiG-27 takes a big hit but survives, at least for now. They keep pushing. And again, I'm going to say this again and again and again, I don't see any recon. Nothing. Guys, a T-64BM, a T-72A, these only have medium optics. You're going to need a dedicated spotter vehicle here. Something that really can see what's going on and can present you with targets. Get a Snezhka, get the BRDM-3 to the front, get recon infantry. Stuff like that is critical in a situation such as this. Because without it, you're going to be in a bit of trouble, and you're going to have a lot of missed opportunities and not really sure what you're going to be dealing with. As the sooner you know what you're dealing with, for example this Leopard 2A4, the sooner they would have spotted that, the sooner the HGMs would have been able to fire. The sooner they would have been able to get rid of it without losing tanks in a fashion such as this. They are getting points. They have 300 points over blue at the moment. Optical failure on the Leopard, that is exceptionally lucky. This tank won't be able to fire for the next 2 minutes. Tank it down. Modernas are coming in to try and clear up whatever is left. Large scale bombing just on the road. Not really sure why. Again though, the only spotter I see is a BRDM-3. Personal private or personal spotter preference would be an Akula. KA-52. It would be going with infantry, Spetsnaz. Would be going with more BRDM-3s or slightly cheaper BRDM variants. Anything with good optics beats the medium optics from these tanks. And it looks like they have pretty much won the game, as they crushed Blue 4's reinforcement zone. And this is the only one you get. T-72A trying to slug it out with a Milan. And exactly that is the problem that I had with the Milans. Their range, 2450. Which means that unless they get exceptionally lucky, they get an insta-kill. They're not going to be able to actually kill the target in one go. Which means a dead Milan carrier. That's why I personally don't use those too much. Blaze is, I don't know, trying to do a last resort offensive. Strop 1, very, very cheap AA unit at only 30 points, but perfect for a situation like this. Just defending against those helos. So Red 4 is now 800 points behind. We only have 25 seconds left. Blaze surrenders. And I wouldn't be surprised if the other guy is going to do the same thing. There we go. So, Russo has been slightly feeding this game. He got a lot of command points, but he was slightly feeding. From what I've been able to see on the battlefield, the reason for feeding is lack of recon and lack of long-range AA. I'm not stalking, I'm talking about ranges exceeding 2800 meters, exceeding the Apache range. Because the Apache has been, well, pretty much by far the most dangerous vehicle to Russo. Let's have a look. The OSAs, they got punished by all sorts of units. They got killed by a light rifleman, they got killed by a Raven, even one got killed by an Apache. Another Raven kill on the book. More AA units, another Strela, again the Apache. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same Apache every single time. Apache Kerr. Apache Kerr. Yep, it's the same guy every single time. That one Apache has killed a lot of forces. And I gotta say, special shout out to this guy Leclerc, the Canadian Airborne Group. These guys have been able to survive time and time again, killing force after force that was thrown at them. Even if it was bombing runs, tank rounds, whatever. They just survived everything. Look at that. 2 more times Kerr. We got a BTR-80 and the T-72BU. The solution to not feeding in a situation like this is getting better recon and longer range AA. That is really all that you needed. The rest of your positioning was pretty good, but that Apache? Bloody hell. That Apache killed... Let's start counting. Strela 10M is about 50 points, I think. Next kill is a BRDM-3 for 40, let's say 30 points. That's 80 points in total. 130 points. This is a very expensive tank. This is 120 points least. So that's 250 points. This is BTR-70, it's 10 points. That's 260. What else we got? This is a very expensive 175 point tank, I believe, so that's 400 something. And yeah, his tally got about 450, give or take a few. One unit. Shoot down that Apache using one simple AA unit, such as better infantry AA, or at least better positioning of them, or better use of the Tunguska, and you would have prevented 400 points. Which is a lot in a situation like this. If you have any other tips for Commander Russo, leave them in the comments, as he's probably going to be watching this video and he's definitely going to see the comments and improve his gameplay with it. As for the rest, I hope you enjoyed this game. If you want to be the next replay and subscriber Saturday, make sure you send it in through the link in the description down below. And otherwise, I'll be sure to see you in another video up soon. Thank you for watching. See you next time.